Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk about book series that I am extremely intimidated to start. Some of these are multiple series under one author, some of these are just the one series, but I'm curious if anybody else has that feeling. Every time I start a series, I'm always a little nervous depending on the length of the series. My favorite series of all time is the Pendragon series, which is 10 books. I'm never scared to read that, but sometimes even looking at like 5 books or 7 book series makes me a little nervous. For example, I got The Unwanteds this year, which is a 7-book series, and I'm actually excited to start that one. Still a little nervous because I do want to finish all 7 books, but these are specifically series that I feel like I'm intentionally putting off and I'm nervous to start, whether it's due to the fandoms or the content of the books. It's all kind of a variety. So let me show you some of the series that I am just terrified to start. First up, we have the Shatter Me series. So I do have the 6 main books. I don't have the novellas yet. I feel like I'd want to read the first book and then get the novellas. And the reason I'm scared to start this book is because I feel like I've heard that this is supposed to be dystopian, but it's more romance based. And I've never really read a longer romance series. And that really scares me because I usually like my romances wrapped up after 1 book. I can't imagine it dragging on for 6 books. So I'm really nervous about that. If this is more dystopian, then I feel like I'll be less scared to start it. But for now, since I've seen so much more about the romances in this book, that's what I'm like scared to start it for, because I don't like to start series that I don't intend to finish. And I'd be nervous to finish this one if it's just like 6 books and 2 novellas about the same romance. Next up, we have the Game of Thrones. Fun fact, I got this box set for $10 at like kind of like a thrift store. And so that was an exciting find. I remember hearing all about Game of Thrones in high school, specifically from the TV show. And I know a lot of people started reading the books. These are huge books, and I remember a line that my uncle told me where he said, and this was probably an over-exaggeration, but it's stuck with me ever since, that the author spends like 20 pages just describing dinner plates. And I was like, okay, that's probably an exaggeration. But if that is the case, I don't want to read 5 books with just descriptions. I want the action, and I feel like I'm nervous to restart it up because of what my uncle said. And I'm also nervous because I don't think this is even the complete series. Like, George R.R. Martin is not done. And I feel like this book, the last book, is probably going to end on a nasty cliffhanger. And I don't want to wait forever while he has to finish the series. I really don't like undertaking series unless all the books are complete. Since I've been making book content, I've been a little more relaxed, whereas okay, if the first 2 books are out, but the 3rd isn't, but it has plans to come out, I'll read it. But in this case, I mean, haven't people been waiting years for like the next book in this? So I don't want to start something if it's also already not finished and it's been years, because we don't know when he's going to finish it. If I'm wrong about this, let me know. So again, mainly intimidated because it's not finished and I don't know when the series will be finished. And because if there are just a lot of descriptions, I'm going to get bored so fast and then I won't finish the series. Next, we have the Maximum Ride series. I didn't realize James Patterson's faces were on the back of these. It's kind of creepy. I'm going to hold him like this so I don't have to stare at James. I am nervous to start this series. First of all, because when I bought these books, the lady said, oh, you should read these 2 if you're planning on reading the Maximum Ride series. I've never read a James Patterson book. I don't even know if I'm gonna like these. And if I need to get through these to get to the Maximum Ride series, I don't even know if it's worth starting, because I do like reading all the prequels and novellas and whatnot. So I don't wanna leave these 2 out, but also because I've never read him before, I'm just not sure if I'll be sold on these 2 like prequels to the Maximum Ride series. Then getting into the Maximum Ride series, first of all, I don't even have all of them. At least they're all out. So we're already better than George R.R. Martin. Like we've already released all the books that are in the series, which is great. But I'm scared because 1, these books are pretty long. And like I had a friend that read all the Maximum Ride books in middle school. So I feel like I should not be scared to read these. But like I feel like I know the premise of the series, which is where these kids who turned into experiments and they have wings like escape. What are they doing for this many books? I just don't know what they're doing for that many books. I'm so confused. And I don't want to start something where it's like, it fizzles out or we're grasping at straws to continue a series. And like, I somewhat feel like that's what these are about, just based on the fact that we have some novels that seem a little separate from the rest of the series. For example, Angel, I don't know what that is. Is that about one person? That would kind of freak me out. Then we also have Max. What is this? How are they different than the Maximum Ride like books? So I don't know. That's why I'm kind of intimidated to start this, and I don't know how people feel about James Patterson. Like, obviously he has 5 million books out, but I feel like I've heard that he's problematic, but I don't know. So I have to also do research on him because I don't want to spend my time reading like a fully problematic author for especially this many books. So the last book series that I'm intimidated to read that I own are essentially all of the Cassandra Clare books. I understand I'm holding 3 different series and like an extra book in my hand. So let's sort these. Okay, so part of the intimidation now that I've sorted the series, and I'm just gonna hold the Immortal Instruments for this part, is that I feel like there's 20 books in this universe or something. I feel like all 20 books are interconnected and there's a certain way to read them. And that scares me because I don't have all 20 books. And for me, in order to start a series, I like to kind of have everything. Unless it's like Shatter Me, for example, and I know the novella comes later and I can at least read one book. I don't even know if I have the first book that like officially starts all of this. I feel like technically I have the first one written. So if I wanted to go in publication order, we have City of Bones. But I feel like that's not the right order to read the books in. I don't remember. I have looked it up before, but that is something that does intimidate me. Then we go on to the Immortal Instruments. Again, these books are long. What are we doing for all of these books? I have no idea, and it scares me a little bit. I also know the only thing that I feel like I've seen about the series is something about incest, and like, when do we find out there's the incest? Is it this book? Do I already have a spoiler from like the first 5 books that I know? I don't know. So that would kind of suck to like, you know, get into these and be like, oh, they don't realize they're siblings until book 6. I don't know. That would kind of suck. Also, I don't think I have all of these. I think there's 7 in this. I don't know. So that intimidates me a little bit. But I remember a lot of people, again, reading this in high school. So I don't necessarily think it's the same thing with Game of Thrones, where I feel like they're going to describe a bunch of stuff for hours on end. I feel like this has interesting plots, but I am just scared of the length of these. And again, the incest part, I don't know when we find that out though. Okay, and then we have these 3. I just love the spines so much. I think those are cool. I digress. So this is the Dark Artifices series. So I have all 3. If there's a prequel, I'm gonna be so frustrated because I wanted to at least feel like I had a complete set of something. But also, these are huge. These are absolutely ginormous. That scares me because I don't usually read like this long of books. Like this is huge. And I feel like part of the reason I'm intimidated by the size of these books is because with making bookish content, I feel like I've been trying to play catch up on a lot of books and I have wanted to read a lot of books. And I feel like if I spend my time, this is gonna take me like 2-3 weeks to get through. If I'm interested in it, it's thick. It's so long. So again, that kind of scares me. And I also have no idea what these are about. So that also kind of makes me nervous because again, what do I have to read before I get to this? Or is this the first one? I have no clue. I have 0 idea what order I'm supposed to read it in. And I feel like that's the big stressor. Then we have these 2. So this I know is part of a trilogy, because I think the last one just came out. So again, at least I feel like everything in this universe has already been written, so that's past one of my barriers. But again, this is a pretty cover. I have no idea what it's about. So because I don't have the rest of these, I'm looking at the back of this book for the first time, and I feel like it tells me what books. So I have all the Immortal Instrument books. I have all the Dark Artifices. I don't have any of the Infernal Devices. Okay, didn't know that was a thing. And then I don't have all of these. At least you know what, I'm 2 for 4 in terms of like full series in this universe. So at least that's a plus. So maybe I can start it and then work my way up. But again, I'm gonna have to look at the order. And again, like, this is huge. So I'm intimidated to get into this universe, especially if I like it and then I don't. Part of me is gonna feel compelled to finish like the rest of the books. And I know that's something personal to work over, but I'm still intimidated to start it. And then when the heck do I read this? This is not a novella. This is not a novella. This is huge. So I don't know when to read this, and I feel like there's multiple stories in it just because there's multiple authors on the front. So I don't know. I just really need like a handy little guide in my hand to direct me through this series, and maybe I'll feel less intimidated. But like, I'm looking at 3 different stacks of books and holding the 4th one. So it just feels intimidating to look at. And then we have 2 series. One's more of just like an author, again, with multiple series, kind of like Cassandra Clare. The first one, though, is definitely more series-based, still somewhat related to the author, but I am extremely, extremely nervous to start ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, Crescent City, those Sarah J. Maas books. One, I know they're not done, okay? So we have the same thing with the George R.R. Martin, where we know it's not done. I believe Sarah J. Maas has mentioned that she would go back to one of the universes. Just stop. If you already have the book set done, but then it gets popular later, please don't add more books, because then I feel like as a new reader, like, I'm intimidated to even start, because if I'm going to get through all of Throne of Glass and then you drop a random book, but I'm already on another series, I'm going to be like, whoa, I have to rethink and go back, and I just don't want to do that. And I also feel like the fandom of Sarah J. Maas stans scares me. It does scare me. I feel like they're extremely loyal. And I am somebody that goes into every book with the intention of it being a 5-star, and then it just kind of goes downhill from there. So if I have a bad review of a Sarah J. Maas book, am I going to like be attacked? I don't want to do that. And then thirdly, with her, at least I feel like she's problematic to the point where a lot of my mutuals, I feel like, don't read ACOTAR, and I don't fully know why she's problematic. I feel like it's not as bad as the person who wrote Where the Crawdads Sing, because she was like accused of murder. I don't think Sarah J. Maas has been accused of murder, but I think she's still problematic enough where like I don't necessarily want to dip my toe into that world, and then we find out more and more and more about Sarah J. Maas that looks worse and worse and worse, similar to J.K. Rowling. So I kind of don't even want to step into that world for that. I also don't know what any of the series are about, and the books look so long, but people have these like huge collections of just Sarah J. Maas books, and that is intimidating, because I feel like I would probably just be a casual fan, and I feel like you can't just be a casual fan of Sarah J. Maas. And then lastly, I know he has multiple series out, but really anything by Brandon Sanderson. First of all, I feel like the way that he approaches TikTok, for example, and his explanations, like, he's a very smart man, and I'm scared his books are gonna be too smart for me. I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel like going into those books, they're within genres I like. I feel like I could have a good time, but I also feel like I'm gonna be like, oh, okay. These are so many words that I don't know. And that's intimidating to go into a book that is, you know, says it's within your reading level and then you don't really like it. I feel like this was the experience I had with Alone with You in the Ether, which is a standalone book. Like, the vocabulary and everything was just way over my head. And I'm a little scared that Brandon Sanderson's book are going to be like that. Also, he has a ton of series and books. Are they interconnected? I don't know. That scares me. I'm kind of avoiding looking it up. Do I have to read them in a certain order? I don't know. Kind of scares me. Have to look it up. So I feel like he's one that I do want to get into. And of all the authors in front of me, I think it's Cassandra Clare and Brandon Sanderson that I would enjoy the most, because I feel like it's more of that, you know, high action, sci-fi, whatnot. Shatter Me could be up there if it is more dystopian too, but because I've heard so much of the romance, I feel like that's like third. But yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just intimidated to start his books. So those are my series that I am like extremely intimidated to start. Do you have any series that you're intimidated to start? I am really curious, because I feel like I am a lover of series, but there are definitely some that, you know, I kind of don't want to dip my toe in. And I've been really liking trilogies lately, or 4 books, or what, like, along those lines. So I'm kind of scared to like expand back into longer series, but I am curious. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one.